So we're going to have a look at the Alco Power Unit 250. The 250 is the first unit in the Alco range that tips over into the part of the regulations where more safety features are required. First off, we're going to look at the disposal options with the Alco units. Once we've looked at the disposal options, we'll talk about the main body of the unit where the dirty work of filtration occurs, and then we can look at the control mechanisms and some of the extra safety features that are housed within the clean side of the dust unit. So we're going to talk a little bit about how air moves through one of these Alco units. Air enters through the inlet on this end of the unit. In this case, it's a 250mm inlet, and on this machine, that inlet has a non-return flap, which, if there was an incident with the unit, prevents anything getting back to the operator and the machines. The air then comes into a pre-separation chamber. Here the air is slowed down so that any heavy dust can drop straight into the disposal system at the bottom. This means that when the air gets to the filters, it's not moving as quickly and it's already dropped a lot of its dust load. The dirty air impacts the filters, the clean air passes through the M-class filters up towards the top of the unit. The air then flows down past the fan, which is on the clean side, before the air turns and exits out through the top of the unit. So through that system, we're not losing any heat, and also with the fan on the clean side, it's designed extremely efficiently so that we're maximising the airflow we can achieve with the size of motor in the unit. As standard, the Alco units come with bins. You can have briquette presses under the units, or you can have rotary lock valves for emptying the waste into a further transport pipe or straight into a skip or a larger bag. It's an easy process to drop the bin, wheel the bin out, remove the bag and dispose. Our experience shows that this process can be one of the main reasons that operators are exposed to dust. So Alco have come up with a solution. Before removing the bin, we have this panel which slides above the bin and reseals the unit. This means that when I pull the bin out, any dust on the filters or around the filters is not going to drop out of the unit and possibly impact the operator. With the waste bins, you have a visual system where you can see through so you know when to empty the bags. In a busy workshop, that can often get missed. So Alco have the option for a sensor that can be housed within the bin itself or just above the bin to monitor the waste levels and trigger a warning when those bins are becoming too full. Because that sensor is within the dirty side of the unit, it has to be ATEX rated to make sure there's no risk of an ignition source. So above the base of the unit, which is where the waste is disposed of, we have the main part of the unit, which is where the filters are housed. The volume of this dirty air section determines what safety regulations the unit has to meet. So for this particular unit, the volume is such that we have to have the fire extinguishing unit built in. What you'll find with some manufacturers is that they will shrink the size of that box to get it underneath the threshold so that they don't have to put a fire extinguisher in. So what you end up with is a unit that's handling the same amount of dust with the same amount of filters, but all packed into a very small area and no extinguisher system, which is not really in the spirit of the regulations. Okay, so we're just going to show you inside the control cabinet for this Alco Power Unit 250, just to show you some of the features in there. Most are standard, a couple of options, but we'll talk you through them. So within here, we've got the main control box with all the electrical controls. We've also got a display unit which will display error messages should anything go wrong with the unit. We've got the motor, very efficient motor, again on the clean side of the dust unit for maximum efficiency. We've got a fire extinguishing tank. So there's a sensor in the unit where if it senses the temperature going above 70 degrees, this tank will put out the fire. In addition, on this unit, we've got up here sound damping. Now, within the regulations for these units, the manufacturers have to aim to get the sound levels below 75 decibels. Alco get well below that, and devices like these baffles can bring the noise levels down by another 3 to 4 decibels. So generally when these units are running in a workshop, you won't hear them because the other machines in the workshop will be noisier. The other thing that the unit does is have an automatic sensor to measure the pressure drop across the filters. So that means that if the pressure drop across the filters gets too high, the filters will be cleaned by the compressed air filter cleaning. Inside the unit, at the top, is a tank that your compressed air supply will fill. The pressure in there is controlled by the Alco itself, and when it's required, the solenoids will open and the filters will clean, which will then trigger the refilling of the tank at the top. The benefit of this is the unit only uses the compressed air it needs to, and it won't put a big demand on your compressed air system. Between cleaning cycle, the tank is refilled from your supply, but that's done at a steady rate so as not to overload your compressed air system. Often when customers inquire with us about dust extraction, one of the questions they have is about ATEX. And the question they often ask is the unit ATEX rated? An entire unit does not need to be ATEX rated. The only time an entire dust unit needs to be ATEX rated is if the unit itself is working within an explosive environment. So that would mean your workshop would have to be an explosive environment for that to be required. What is important is that the unit is correctly zoned. Where the filters are, where the waste is, that is an ATEX zone. It's an explosive environment, and therefore care has to be taken with what goes in there. So we can't have any ignition sources or anything that might trigger an incident. Once we get past the filters, the regulations are quite clear that the rest of the unit is not an ATEX zone, it's a clean air zone. So this means that anything within that zone does not have to be ATEX rated. It's something customers can get a little bit confused with, and I think some suppliers and manufacturers like to bandy around ATEX terms without really explaining to customers what it means. This unit, the Alco 250, has the same compressed air filter cleaning as the rest of the range. Compressed air filter cleaning is the most efficient way of cleaning filters. It delivers a very sharp shock to the filters, quickly expanding the filters and shaking off the dust load. Filter cleaning on the Alco range is triggered by one of two things: cumulative run time. So if the unit runs for more than 10 minutes, the next time the unit shuts down, the filters will clean. There is also a pressure sensor which detects when the filters are getting clogged. That will also trigger the filter cleaning. If the unit is older and the filters are starting to come towards the end of their life and the unit can't clean them sufficiently, the unit will tell you, it will warn you, and it will shut the unit down. The Power Unit 250 is designed to be used either with single machines, they're ideal for connection to a CNC machine, or indeed for a small group of machines in a small to medium sized workshop. Within a small workshop, the unit can be set to start automatically and stop automatically with a range of machines. We can supply the full ducting system with automatic shut-off gates so that everything you need is covered. One thing we know with the Alco range of dust units is that it will provide a long-term solution. The build quality is such that if we get the specification of the unit right in the first place, you're going to get many years of safe dust collection. If you're interested in this unit or any of the other Alco units, then please do give us a call. You can find us at tmmachinery.co.uk.